Welcome to BL Stories, where romance, drama, and unforgettable boys' love come to life. Love knows no limits, and the best stories aren't always straight. Subscribe now and join our growing BL-loving family. Chapter 19. Lucas POV. After long, heartfelt goodbyes and more hugs than I could count, for both Scotty and me, we caught the first flight out. By the time we were ready to leave, Rivers had calmed somewhat but remained mostly unresponsive, so that goodbye had been awkward and shallow. Adrian finally came out of the stunned fog that had swallowed him earlier. He made a handful of calls and stayed glued to his phone. I found myself wedged between the two brothers in first class, anxious for the flight to end. Scotty looked pale and drawn, which was only natural after the news we'd received. I wasn't sure how to support him. A hug or a pat on the shoulder felt inadequate and maybe intrusive, so I sat tense and waiting while the two brothers' worlds unraveled. My mind kept returning to the call I'd gotten the night before. Marcus was shot shortly after I learned he and his brothers were under investigation. Coincidence? Maybe. It could have been anyone assigned to the case, or a random, faceless enemy. The uncertainty didn't help. I rubbed my hand across my face and tilted my head to listen to Adrian's conversation. Whoever he was talking to was getting an earful, but just as his voice rose, the line went dead. He glared at his phone in disbelief. "They actually hung up on me," he said, stunned more than angry. "What did you expect with the way you were carrying on?" I asked. He exhaled and sank back into his seat. "They still won't tell me anything about his condition. All she said was he's in surgery. I don't know where he was hit, whether it's major, nothing." He sounded frustrated. I reached across and squeezed his arm. What if he dies thinking I chose the pack over him? That I betrayed him? Scotty murmured from his corner. He had spoken so quietly it could have been to himself, but the anguish on his face was unmistakable. "Don't say that. Marcus will be fine," Adrian replied, though his voice didn't sound entirely convinced. Scotty's eyes filled with tears. "But what if?" "I said he'll be fine." "Drop it," Adrian cut in sharply. They fell silent after that. I tried not to imagine Marcus lifeless. The thought left a bitter taste. I didn't like the man much, but no one deserved to go like that. I sighed and rested my head on the pull-out table in front of me. "I swear I'll find whoever did this," Adrian muttered. I could tell he meant it. By the time we reached the hospital in London, visiting hours had ended, but a few well-placed words and some cash got us through the door. Marcus had been in surgery for hours and still hadn't woken. Seeing him pale and still on the narrow hospital bed was unsettling. I was used to seeing him active and brooding, not helpless and unmoving. Scotty was first to his side. He pulled up a chair and took Marcus' hand, pressing a kiss to the back of it, then squeezed. The tears finally came as he looked down at him. I couldn't stand watching people break. It made me want to disappear. I turned to leave so they could have some privacy. Earlier the nurse had said Marcus was shot twice. Once in the shoulder, once just above the right hip. He was lucky to be alive. Again, I wondered whether the shooting was connected to the call I'd received. I hadn't contacted my source at the agency yet, but I knew I had to, soon. I sank into a chair in the waiting room and ran a hand through my hair. What a day. Things never seemed to go well for these three. I could see the whole scene play out differently in my head. Adrian shot and me at his side, weeping, everything a mess because he never knew when to walk away, because he'd let his ambition cost him. The door opened and Adrian walked toward me. "There's not much I can do right now," he said. "Good news, he's stable. Scotty will stay with him for a few hours. I need to go talk to my men." He started to leave. "Your men? Don't tell me you're going to do what I think." My voice came out more pleading than I intended. He paused but didn't turn. "My brother was shot, Lucas. I'm going to find who's responsible. If you're trying to talk me out of it, don't bother. I won't be swayed." His tone admitted no argument. It was the Adrian I knew, the cold, determined man I'd met almost a year ago, and there I was again, feeling like a fool for following him. I breathed deep and laid a hand on his shoulder, a quiet promise that I wasn't leaving. The easiest way to break a man is to go after those he loves. The quickest path to regret is to betray a man like Adrian Corsetti. 5 minutes with him, and the people before us were already crumbling. I might have been impressed if I weren't so worried about the life at stake. The boy standing there looked no more than 18 and had clearly stepped into a world he didn't understand. "Please, sir, he's my son." "He didn't mean for this to happen," the old man pleaded, dropping to his knees before Adrian. His son stood behind him, glaring defiantly, yet the elder man's trembling hands and wavering voice showed he was terrified, rightly so. "If the job was only offered to you, why would you involve your son?" Adrian asked. When the man began to answer, Adrian raised his hand to stop him. "Listen to me, my secrets are mine. If I give you a job, it's yours. You don't pass it to anyone, and you don't tell anyone who hired you." He shifted the weapon in his lap in a way that made everyone glance at it uneasily. "Yes, sir. I understand. I'm sorry. Please, he's my only child." The man looked like he might collapse. "Your son gave information to the person who had my brother shot. He didn't care whether Marcus lived or died. And for what? 25 pounds? He almost got my brother killed for 25 pounds. Adrian's voice rose, and the father flinched. The scene was raw, fear, shame, and the kind of anger that comes from seeing the people you love hurt. I stayed silent, but I didn't take my eyes off Adrian. He was dangerous when he was cold and driven, and I'd been with him long enough to know how far that could go. Despite everything, the sadness of the situation wrapped around us. A brother in surgery, a family shattered, a desperate father, and 2 men bound by more than business. The air between us was heavy, but beneath it was a thread of something else. Care, loyalty, a complicated affection that kept pulling us back together no matter how badly things fell apart. Adrian turned to the boy. "You're 18. That makes you a man in my book, old enough to answer for your mistakes." The old man's sobs grew louder. I bit my lip to stop myself from saying something I might regret to Adrian. "The only way you get out of this is by telling me everything," Adrian said. "How did he approach you? Why did you agree? Describe him, what he looks like, where he's staying, where you met, every word he said." The boy nodded so hard his tears fell freely. The tough act was gone. He told us he'd overheard a group of men in a bar on the far side of town talking about Adrian and his brothers. He admitted he'd listened, let his temper flare, and then added his own 2 cents. Through his sobs, he said one of the men had paid him 25 pounds to keep in touch and let them know where Marcus would be. 10 minutes later, we had names, a number, and the name of the bar they frequented. It was up to Adrian how he wanted to handle it. "Listen carefully," Adrian said, his voice low and dangerous. "There are only a few people in this world I care about, and you chose to hurt one of them. A few weeks ago, I might not have hesitated, but I'm letting you go, this time." He leaned in, making sure every word landed. "You keep what happened here to yourselves. Finding where you live won't be hard, and by tonight I'll know the names and addresses of everyone involved. It'll be in your best interest to stay silent. Cross me again, and there will be consequences. Do you understand?" The boy whimpered in answer. Marcus POV. "Something's wrong, something's wrong." The scream echoed in my head no matter what I did. It wouldn't stop. "Please, please, please." The cries were raw, tearing at me until I writhed and prayed for silence. I didn't understand them. They were inside my head, and they had to stop. My eyes snapped open. The screaming was gone, but aches and confusion remained. My body felt battered, as if I'd spent the night fighting. The beeps of machines and the sharp smell of disinfectant told me I was in a hospital. Scotty slept beside me, his head near my hand, which we were holding. I remembered being shot. The scene returned piece by piece, everything except the shooter's face. What bothered me most wasn't the near-death experience. It was that when I was shot, there had been only me and the shooter, yet those screams had sounded so real, and the voice had felt painfully familiar. Lucas POV. "So, I did some digging," Leeds said, looking more concerned than accusatory. "Tell me why you've been seen with the Corsettis more than once." "Leeds, you know I'm not a paid agent." "I'm not the only one who takes cases," I replied, doing my best to sound steady. "I had a lead on the brothers a while back, so I've been working their file." It was the best explanation I had, and I prayed he'd buy it, because if I didn't get that file, I'd never know what they had on Adrian. He eyed me skeptically. And you didn't think to mention this the night I called? If you remember correctly, you didn't give me a chance. I shot back, too quickly. If you're already looking into it, why should I give you the file? He asked. Does it matter? We're all trying to bring this guy down, right? I met his gaze until he shifted under it. Alright, whatever you find, send it to us. Deal? He said, surprisingly easy. I took the folder before he changed his mind. No problem, I said and left. 2 hours later I was bent over my cabinet, pulling a large file jacket from the hidden compartment. I set it on my desk and stared at it for a long moment, taking a steadying breath. I knew I should have destroyed it ages ago. Keeping it was a risk, but I'd held on to it for a reason. Despite everything, despite growing feelings, I still believed in justice. The folder contained evidence I'd collected on the brothers over several months, a safeguard I'd created early on in our relationship. The last time I'd looked at it was months ago, but what was inside could put them away for good. If Adrian ever discovered it, I'd be in grave danger. That's why I needed to decide what to do with it now. This single file had the power to destroy not just our relationship, but our lives. That was a risk I couldn't afford anymore. Chapter 20. Lucas POV. The blue file jacket slipped through my fingers and landed with a dull thud on the desk when the door opened and Adrian stepped in. Everything all right? He asked, noticing my shaken expression. My heart hammered against my ribs at the thought of what would happen if he discovered the evidence. I forced a calm tone. Yeah, I'm fine. What's up? I stepped in front of the desk to shield the folder from view. He raised an eyebrow, clearly suspicious, but let it pass. I'm going to see Marcus. Want to come? I nodded before I could talk myself out of it. Acting normal felt impossible, but I followed him anyway. Scotty's already there. He said Marcus is awake and talking, Adrian added as we left the house. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and the air inside Marcus's room was taut with worry. Marcus lay in bed, still recovering but not as pale as the night before. Scotty gripped his brother's hand like he was afraid Marcus might drift away. Marcus didn't seem to mind. He offered Adrian a small, wry smile when Adrian entered and gave me a bored look that, in its way, felt like progress. How are you feeling? Adrian asked, standing a short distance away. Like I was run over by a truck, Marcus joked, surprising me with his attempt at humor. Adrian didn't smile, but I could see concern in his eyes. Did you see the man who did this? Can you tell me anything he said? Adrian pressed gently. Marcus shook his head. I've been trying all morning to remember, but I can't. I remember walking to my car. The lot was empty. I heard something, turned around, it was dark. I'm pretty sure it was a man, but I only remember a shape. Scotty reached up and smoothed Marcus's hair to comfort him. That's fine. We've got a lead, Adrian said. A kid has already admitted taking money to pass on information about where you were. We'll find him. Marcus's expression darkened. There's one other thing, he said softly, then hesitated. What? Scotty asked. Screaming, Marcus said. I moved a little closer. I heard someone screaming. Screaming? Adrian repeated. Like someone saw you? A woman calling for help. No, Marcus answered. It sounded like a boy. I don't know. It wasn't in the parking lot. It sounded like it was inside my head. I know that sounds crazy, but... He trailed off, rubbing his temple. Adrian's face hardened. A boy was screaming. Before or after you were shot? That's the thing. I don't think it was in the lot. It was like it came from inside me. Marcus swallowed. The memory unsettled all of us in different ways. Get some rest, brother. We'll handle the rest, Adrian said. He ruffled Scotty's hair, moved away from the bed and promised, I'll be back later. The brothers nodded, and we left the room. Outside, Adrian walked with his thoughts heavy. What do you make of the screaming? I asked, trying to pull him into the present. He's probably just exhausted, Adrian said shortly. He's been through a lot. I didn't push it. Maybe Adrian was right. At the car I asked, where to now? I have meetings, Adrian replied. Anything you need to do in town? I shook my head. Meetings about Marcus? I pressed. Yes. We have a lead on the man. It won't be long, he said, and I watched the set of his jaw as he spoke. Adrian, think about what you're doing, I said while biting the inside of my cheek. I know you're furious, but you're talking about ending someone's life. Don't start. His tone cut me off, firm and final. I sighed and asked only to be driven home. That night I sat on the bed with the loose pages from the agency file spread around me. I'd been going through everything to confirm whether our agency had anything substantial on them. It turned out there wasn't much, no solid proof, but I still needed to know who else was on the case and what they were planning. After I'd made the calls and felt confident the information was sound, I phoned Adrian. He answered on the first ring. His voice was rough with fatigue. We need to talk tonight, I said. He agreed without hesitation. Not long after, he let himself into my apartment. He refused a drink and stood there, eyes sharp despite the sleeplessness. What's going on? He asked. A few days ago, I got a call from the agency. I began. They're looking into you, all three of you. Government agents and investigators from my agency are involved. He was steady at first. There are always people trying to dig up dirt, he said carefully. I took a breath and pressed on. Adrian, I called to warn you. Please, just lay low for a while. Stop operations until they lose interest. He rubbed his face with a tired hand. Not this again, Lucas. This is serious, I said, leaning in. They'll try anything. They could pose as clients. Background checks aren't foolproof. I'm trying to help. You know they'll never stop hunting me, he replied. To shut down would mean giving up everything I've built. I can't do that. You do realize it's not only you who's at risk, I said, my voice steady but strained. If they find actionable evidence, I'm in trouble too, for what I've seen and for not reporting it. Adrian opened his mouth to argue, but I stopped him. You're smart, Adrian. You know nothing is foolproof, but you're still willing to put us all at risk. Do you think what I've built is trivial? He demanded. Just answer one question. I held his gaze and felt my pulse in my throat. If you had to choose between me and your business, what would you choose? Silence filled the room. He looked at me, expression unreadable. In that moment I understood his answer without words. I swallowed hard. I love you, Adrian, I said, the words catching in my throat. But this is where I draw the line. I won't help you hide or risk everything for your operations. I can't stand by and watch you choose the business over us. For once, he didn't try to persuade me. He stared at me as if weighing something final. Then, with his jaw set, he turned and left, out of my apartment and, I feared, out of my life. He didn't look back. He didn't say a word. This time it felt truly over. I hadn't expected how quickly my conviction would harden. I'd hoped I could change him, had stayed by his side for months, believing he might leave it all behind. I'd watched what his choices did to others. I'd seen the consequences reach people like Grady, even from far away. Still, I'd stood there, waiting for him to choose differently. Adrian loved me, I knew that, but something else always came first. And that something would, eventually, be his undoing. It would be cruel of me to keep standing by him, pretending I didn't see the path he chose. Earlier that night, I'd almost destroyed the evidence to preserve our lives and our relationship. Now, in the quiet after his leaving, I returned the blue file jacket to its place in the cabinet. I didn't destroy it. I couldn't. Not yet. Sometimes sacrifice isn't weakness. Sometimes you sacrifice what you want most for the greater good. He had already chosen once. Now perhaps it was my turn. I would wait, grow stronger, and when the time came, I would use what I had to protect the innocent. I looked at the cabinet that held our future and let the tears fall. My work, helping those less fortunate, had become my purpose. I could not let one man and his empire keep wrecking the lives I'd dedicated myself to protecting. I wiped my face and closed the cabinet door gently. I would not destroy the evidence. One day, when my heart no longer ached at his name, when I was strong enough, I would use it. For the sake of the innocent, I would do what needed to be done. Chapter 21. Adrian's POV. 7 weeks. 7 weeks, and you still have nothing to show for it. I dropped the file onto the desk with a dull thud, frustration evident in my tone. The man standing before me shifted nervously, eyes darting between the file and my face. "Sir, with all due respect, we're doing everything we can," he said quickly. "This guy doesn't want to be found, and he's very good at hiding. But it's only a matter of time before he slips up, and when he does, we'll take care of it." I clenched my fists to keep myself from reacting. It was the same excuse I'd been hearing for weeks, and I was running out of patience. "This man shot my brother, with the intent to kill, and you've yet to prove you're capable of doing your job," I said sharply. "Get out." "Sir, I assure you." I said get out. This time, my tone left no room for argument. The man bowed his head and quickly exited the room. "Calm down, Adrian. He can't hide forever," Marcus said from his seat on the couch. "You were the one who got shot," I snapped, turning toward him. "You're acting like you don't even care." "Well, forgive me if I'm not in the mood for your revenge schemes right now," Marcus replied dryly. I turned away, walking toward the tall window overlooking the city below. "We've got half our people looking for him already," I muttered. "You think I'm overreacting?" Marcus sighed. "Honestly, I think you're just upset about the breakup, and this whole revenge mission is your way of distracting yourself." I rolled my eyes. "You're the one who's been hearing strange voices, and I'm the one who needs a psychological evaluation?" He ignored the jab. "All I'm saying is, let the team handle this. Focus on what's important, the operation." "I can do both," I said simply, ending the discussion. He opened his mouth to argue, but I held up a hand to stop him. Before either of us could continue, the phone rang. Marcus picked it up, and when he put it on speaker, Scotty's cheerful voice filled the room. "Okay, Scotty, we're both here," Marcus said. "What's going on?" "You'll never guess," Scotty said, excitement clear in his tone. I could almost picture the grin on his face. "Grady and Thomas are doing their bonding ceremony next weekend, and so are we. We're going to have a double ceremony. I want both of you there." Marcus frowned. "Don't you think it's a bit soon? You just met her." "I met her 2 months ago," Scotty replied. "And you know how it works. We're meant to be together. It's not like everyone else. We'll never get tired of each other, and we're in love. So why wait?" Marcus sighed, clearly realizing that arguing would be useless. "All right, we'll be there." I nodded in agreement. "Yeah, we'll be there." Maybe getting away for a few days wasn't such a bad idea. The search for Marcus's attacker wasn't going anywhere, and some distance might help me clear my head. But then Scotty hesitated, his tone shifting. "You don't sound too excited, Adrian," he said cautiously. "There's something else." I frowned. "What is it?" He hesitated before answering. "Thomas invited Lucas." The mention of his name hit me like a punch to the chest. My breath caught as I sank into my chair, trying to steady myself. "Adrian? You there?" Scotty asked, concern creeping into his voice. Marcus jumped in. "It's fine, Scotty. We'll be there. Don't worry." After a few more pleasantries, Marcus ended the call and looked at me. "I need a drink," I muttered before he could speak. He didn't argue, just watched me with quiet understanding. Lucas POV. The bar wasn't crowded when I walked in, thankfully. I wasn't in the mood for noise or company. All I wanted was a drink and a little peace after a long, exhausting week. "Beer," I said to the bartender as I sat down. He nodded and poured without a word. Around me, the usual crowd filled the space, some dancing to the beat of the music, others chatting or quietly scanning the room. A few glances came my way, but I ignored them. I wasn't here to socialize. I'd been coming to this place a lot lately. It wasn't about the bar itself, but the quiet familiarity it offered. After leaving the agency each night, this was where I came to unwind and silence the noise in my head. As I lifted my drink, I suddenly felt it, the distinct sensation of being watched. My pulse quickened. I glanced around the room, and then my eyes found him. Adrian. The sight of him made my breath hitch. I hadn't seen him in nearly 2 months, and yet his presence still had the same effect. Sharp, immediate, overwhelming. He was sitting alone in the far corner, half hidden in the shadows, a glass of amber liquid before him. His eyes met mine, steady and unreadable, but intense enough to make my chest tighten. For a long moment, I couldn't move. I wanted to look away, to run, but my body refused to cooperate. My heart was pounding, and I knew he could see it in my face. Then, just as suddenly, a tall dancer stepped between us, blocking my view. "You look like you could use some company," the man said, flashing a friendly grin. His voice was confident, his frame muscular and covered in tattoos. I blinked, startled out of my trance. He sat down beside me before I could respond, ordering me another drink without asking. I accepted it politely, forcing a small smile, but all the while, I could feel Adrian's gaze from across the room. It was steady, piercing, and impossible to ignore. I felt a brief pang of guilt, but I quickly pushed it aside. Sitting here with someone else didn't mean I'd forgotten Adrian. Bottling myself up and avoiding life because of what we once had was ridiculous. "Out for fun or waiting for someone?" the muscular man asked, his grin broad. I offered a small, polite smile. "Just needed to get out of the house for a bit," I said. He leaned closer, making it obvious he wasn't here just to chat. "What do you say we get out of here for a while?" I could smell the faint mix of alcohol and cigarettes on his breath. I opened my mouth to decline politely, but before I could, a familiar voice cut through. "Look, he's taken. So, step off ya?" Adrian's tone was sharp, commanding. The man, muscles, tattoos, and all, simply got up and left without protest. I stared after him, surprised. "What are you doing, Lucas?" Adrian asked, sitting on the stool the other man had just vacated. I frowned. "I could ask you the same thing. What was that?" I motioned toward the man now chatting with someone across the room. "This isn't like you," Adrian said, his voice tense. "Picking up random guys? What are you trying to prove?" He grabbed the beer from my hand and slammed it onto the counter. I felt my patience snap. "What the hell, Adrian? I haven't seen you in weeks, and this is how you act." My voice rose, but he stayed calm, the storm in his eyes the only sign of what he felt. "What do you expect me to say when I see you throwing yourself at anyone who looks your way?" he snapped, eyes flashing. I stiffened, anger and hurt knotting in my chest. I placed some cash on the counter and turned to leave. He grabbed my arm. I shook him off and spun around. "Lucas, I'm sorry, that was out of line," he said, eyes pleading. I barely held back the storm inside me. "No, Adrian, we're done. Don't try that with me again." I walked out before he could respond. I made it 3 blocks before I realized the liquid running down my face wasn't sweat. It was tears. Memories of the night I ended things with him came rushing back. He looked just as stunning as ever, and the words he'd said, their weight cut deeper than I remembered. I ran. My heart pounded, breath shallow. In an instant, I shifted into my wolf form, sprinting through the streets and into the trees, desperate to escape the pain and confusion. Scotty's POV. For days later, Rivers was sipping a green tea shake while we waited at arrivals. The plane had landed 20 minutes ago, and our brothers hadn't appeared yet. Rivers had been talking nonstop, so I'd grabbed him a drink to occupy him. For minutes of quiet bliss felt like a miracle. Lucas had arrived earlier, Thomas had picked him up. I worried how things would go once Adrian crossed paths with him. The mating ceremony was coming up at the end of the week, and I wanted everything to go smoothly for Jesse. I glanced at Rivers again. He was mixing his drink with concentration. The anxiety and voices he'd struggled with had calmed down, thankfully, and he seemed almost back to normal. Then, my heart leapt. Our twins appeared at last. Adrian led the way, Marcus bringing up the rear. Adrian gave me a small smile, but Marcus was focused on a paper in his hand, barely acknowledging us. Both carried bags, and I couldn't help but notice how much better Marcus looked. No traces of the pale, frail boy he'd been weeks ago. "They're here," I announced. Rivers tore his gaze away from his drink, following mine toward the twins. Then things got strange. Rivers' shake tipped over, spilling across the floor and onto my shoes. He clutched my arm as if for dear life, eyes wide, almost frozen in disbelief. "It's him," Rivers whispered, voice trembling. I frowned. "Rivers? Are you okay? My mate, he stammered, still staring in awe. I followed his gaze and froze. Marcus. I blinked, stunned. Chapter 22. Scotty's POV. My eyes kept shifting between Marcus and Rivers as the council chief elder spoke. I still couldn't believe it. Marcus, my serious, stoic brother, was mated to the one creature he had always despised, a wolf. And not just any wolf, Rivers. Loud, exuberant, a little over the top, and utterly loving. It was insane, and yet, somehow, perfect. I couldn't even imagine their daily lives. Marcus, usually the one in control, being subtly bossed around by Rivers. It was going to be a very interesting dynamic. At the airport, I'd been surprised by Marcus' reaction when Rivers announced himself as his mate. I expected Marcus to reject the claim outright, or at least ignore Rivers' excitement, but instead he froze. Recognition flickered across his features as though he'd known Rivers forever, even though I knew it was their first meeting. Marcus had just stared as Rivers chattered on, praising him, calling him beautiful, and declaring his love. Marcus had been silent, almost in awe, while Rivers' excitement radiated across the room. Now, at the camp, they sat on opposite sides of the small council room. Marcus' eyes fixed on the elder, Rivers' gaze locked entirely on Marcus. It was strange, but not as strange as the explanation the elder was giving. I've only seen a bond like this once before, the elder said. Typical wolves cannot feel the pain of their partner, nor hear their thoughts, nor sense their fear. They certainly cannot feel the pull of their mate from miles away, as you two do. Rivers leaned in, focused, his eyes wide. I knew this wasn't normal, Marcus said, his voice tight. He didn't meet Rivers' eyes, and I noticed the hurt that flashed across Rivers' face. On the contrary, Corsetti, the elder continued. If Rivers feels the mating bond with you, then you are indeed his mate. Marcus frowned. But you said wolves don't feel the same things we do, he argued. And yet, the elder said, I've seen your type of bond before. You are mated, yes, but it goes deeper. Have you ever heard the term soulmates? Marcus scoffed, folding his arms. Now you're saying he's my soulmate? Don't be ridiculous. That is exactly what I'm saying, the elder said. For humans, a wolf bond is forced and doesn't guarantee love. But in your case, even as humans, you would have been drawn to each other. You would have met and fallen in love regardless of the bond. That is why yours is so strong. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. I believe it, Rivers said softly, eyes fixed on Marcus, who refused to glance back. Adrian, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Do you think the difference in species matters? Marcus being a shifter and Rivers a wolf? No, the elder said. It has nothing to do with species. They are soulmates, destined to find each other. This bond is unbreakable, and neither of you can change it. You do best to accept it. Marcus stood to leave, but Rivers reached for his hand. Marcus pulled away sharply, gasping, and stormed out. Rivers followed a moment later, leaving the rest of us staring after them. Thank you for your time, Chief, Thomas said, shaking the elder's hand. Marcus and Rivers? Wow, I still can't believe it, I murmured. Grady nodded. I always thought Rivers would find someone more cheerful. I had to agree. Their personalities seemed so different, yet somehow nature had paired them perfectly. Adrian smirked. It's like this place has it in for us. First you, now Marcus. I don't want to know what the next visit will bring. I teased. Who knows, maybe you and Lucas will get back together next time. Adrian's mood immediately soured. He pulled into himself, and I regretted the comment. Grady, ever tactless, jumped in. Wait, you two broke up? That's surprising. You risked everything last time to save your relationship, and now it's over? Grady, not the time, Thomas muttered, hand on his shoulder. Oh, come on. You're not even a little curious? Grady shot back. Adrian, unamused, stood and said, You should try keeping your opinions to yourself, Grady, before leaving. I leaned closer to explain. Lucas gave Adrian an ultimatum. Choose between the relationship and the business. Adrian chose the business. That's why they broke up. Grady gaped. He actually chose the business over Lucas? Who does that? I nodded. He loves Lucas more than anyone knows. But Adrian's head wasn't in the relationship anymore. He had responsibilities to keep things together. He's made so many sacrifices over the years, just like he's done for Marcus. Grady still looked unconvinced. I still think if you love someone, you should give up anything for them. Sometimes, love isn't that simple, I said gently. Sacrifices don't always look the same. We can only hope they find their way back to each other. Marcus POV. My hand tingled from where Rivers had touched me. I brushed it against my pants, but the feeling lingered. Mated to a wolf, really? I took a deep breath to stop myself from pounding the nearest tree. The boy was right, I couldn't deny the pull. I felt him in my mind, around me, everywhere. His presence refused to give me peace. In London, I'd felt his voice, his emotions. Here, it was amplified, impossible to ignore. Fighting it was futile. I remembered the moment at the airport, the way those big brown eyes had looked at me, as if I were someone special, someone to be admired. The feeling had been overwhelming, and I would be a fool to disregard the elder's words. And yet, he was a wolf, a creature I had always despised. My heart raced. And still, he was beautiful, delicate, and mine in a way I couldn't accept. I shook my head. Not mine. Never mine. When I returned to London, things would be normal again. I'd focus on what I knew, on what I could control. I just had to get through this week. 1 week. Then life could return to its proper rhythm. Though, even as I thought it, I realized how dull, normal, sounded compared to the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me. If this was what Adrian had felt for so long, I understood now, this was no easy thing to endure. And I wouldn't wish it on anyone, not even an enemy. Adrian's POV. I wished she'd just disappear. Scotty's mate was proving to be more trouble than I could handle. Jessie sat across from me, smiling that way she always did, the look that said she knew something I didn't. It was unnerving. The sooner you tell me what's wrong, the sooner I'll leave, Adrian, she said softly. I sighed. Look, Jessie, I don't need counseling or whatever this is. So, the sooner you go, the better. She tilted her head, amused. Funny, Lucas said the exact same thing. Interesting. Of course he would. He was like me in that regard. He liked his privacy. If I need help, I'll find you. I promise, I added, offering a small smile to soften the edge. You'd better make sure of it. I'm always here if you want to talk. She reached out, lightly squeezing my hand before standing. Then she added with a grin, and Adrian, congrats on my brother. I'm a lucky girl. And just like that, she was gone. Half an hour later, I entered the guest house to find Rivers in the kitchen, humming a cheerful tune and stirring a pot on the stove. Hi, darling. What's up? He called cheerfully. I raised an eyebrow at his exuberance. Why are you in such a good mood? I asked gruffly. Why wouldn't I be? I finally met my mate, he exclaimed, the happiness practically radiating from him. I couldn't help but notice how steady his hand was as he stirred. Yeah, but he won't even talk to you, I said cautiously, trying not to be cruel, just trying to understand. Oh, please, Adrian. If he feels even half of what I'm feeling, which I know he does, he'll be all over me soon enough. I just have to be patient, Rivers replied with a grin so bright it was almost blinding. Well, enough about me. What's going on with you and Lucas? He won't say, but I can tell something's wrong. His knowing look made it impossible to dodge. I tried to distract him. What are you cooking? Rivers raised an eyebrow, clearly not fooled, but decided to play along. Think about all of Marcus' favorite things to eat and you have your answer. Ah, so you're trying to bribe him with food? I joked. He rolled his eyes dramatically. Don't be ridiculous. I just can't have my boy starve. Haven't you seen the size of him? He sighed, smiling. He's beautiful. I chuckled. Marcus was going to have his hands full with this one. I'm going shopping later, and I want you to come with me, Rivers announced, eyes sparkling. I gaped at him. I don't think so, I muttered. Shopping was hardly my idea of fun. But I need company. I need a whole new wardrobe for London. I heard it's always cold there, and I don't want people judging my American style. Since when are you going to London? I asked skeptically. Well, considering Marcus lives there, I think you have your answer, he said, grinning cheekily. I blinked. Wolves never left their packs willingly, they were too connected. You'd move to London? I asked again. Of course. When you love someone, you'll do whatever it takes to be with them, he said matter-of-factly, returning to his pot. His words hit me like a punch to the chest. I felt a lump in my throat and went to sit on the sofa, trying to process what he'd just said. He made it seem like I wasn't doing enough for Lucas. I'd given up so much already. Wasn't that enough? I dropped my head into my hands, squeezing my eyes shut. Nothing in life required giving up everything for love. But Lucas, what had he given up? Everything. And now I realized the risk he had taken. His very life. I finally understood Lucas' perspective. He had been willing to give up everything for me, and I had clung to my business instead. The realization stung, and I knew what I had to do. Rivers? Where's Lucas? I called. In his room, maybe showering, he replied, and I raced up the stairs, hands trembling as I gripped the banister. I pushed open his door without knocking, desperate to see him. The room was empty, chaotic as usual, with clothes scattered and papers strewn across the bed. I smiled faintly at the familiarity, knowing he had left in typical Lucas fashion. I cleared a spot on the bed to sit, assuming he'd be back soon. I took a deep breath, preparing the words I needed to say. My heart pounded. I would tell him I'd step back from the business, let Marcus handle it, and focus only on supporting him. That had to be enough. I hummed softly, echoing River's earlier tune, as I glanced around the room. Shoes, clothes, papers, it all felt like a part of him, a part I'd missed more than I'd realized. Then my eyes caught something. A printed picture of me, months old, tucked among the papers. I picked it up, confused, and then I saw more. Images of Scotty, Marcus, and me, evidence of past dealings, receipts, names, all carefully documented. My heart sank. At first, I told myself there had to be an explanation. But deep down, I knew the truth. Lucas had prepared for this. He had planned. And now I understood, he had acted to protect himself, and maybe even me, in ways I hadn't anticipated. I steadied myself against the bed, taking a deep breath. Anger, frustration, and relief swirled inside me. I couldn't dwell on the chaos. I needed to focus. I would face him. I would explain. And this time, I would make sure Lucas knew I would be by his side no matter what it took. Chapter 23. Scotty's POV. I just don't get why the ceremony has to be so long and boring, Grady complained. No one was surprised by his outburst. He's right. And if we're really going to have our ceremonies at the same time, I shudder to think how long everyone will have to sit through it, Jesse added. Grady nodded enthusiastically. I say we cut down some of the speeches. The elder doesn't have that much to say, does he? Grady continued, sprawled on the couch and snacking on some kind of candy I'd never seen before. We can't just change the ceremony, babe. There's a procedure. If it's not followed exactly, we won't be considered officially mated, Thomas explained. I'm sure the elders could adjust something though, right? I mean, they can't really enjoy standing there for so long. Maybe I can get Carson to talk to them, Lakin said, raising his head from Thomas's lap as he munched on candy as well. Carson won't go for it. We have less than a week before the ceremony. He can't approach the council on such short notice, Thomas said. Grady rolled his eyes. You'd think being the alpha and beta, you could get things done, he muttered. Shut up, Grady, Thomas shot back. I laughed as Grady grabbed a cushion, ready to throw it at Thomas, but before he could, the windows to the left of the room shattered, sending glass flying everywhere. Get down, Thomas shouted. He pulled Lakin to the floor and then grabbed Grady, covering him with his body. Jessie grabbed my arm, pulling me down to the floor as she protected her head. A moment later, the entire room shook from a distant explosion. River's POV. Adrian had completely lost control. That had to be the only explanation. I struggled against Marcus' grip, shouting at Adrian to stop, but he ignored me. His focus was entirely on Lucas, who stood in the hallway, stunned. I tried to remember what could have triggered this. He had seemed fine earlier, maybe a little grumpy, and then he'd disappeared into the sitting room for a few minutes. Even when he asked where Lucas was, he'd seemed calm enough. I couldn't understand it. And then there was the terror that had gripped my heart at the sight of the weapon in Adrian's hands. I'd frozen, unable to move, my pulse racing. It wasn't until Marcus had burst through the front door that I felt any sense of protection, his arm pulling me behind him. Lucas emerged from the bathroom, a towel wrapped around his waist, his eyes wide at the scene before him. "Adrian, are you serious?" "Put that down," Marcus said firmly, trying to reason with him. Adrian's voice was cold, directed at Lucas. "You thought I wouldn't find out, huh?" "I don't understand," Lucas stammered, his fear evident. "You've been hiding things, haven't you? Laughing at us? Thinking you could outsmart the Corsetti brothers?" "Adrian, Don't lie to me. I'm done with that," Adrian interrupted sharply, his voice cracking with emotion. "Just tell me, did it mean anything to you? Did what mean anything? What are you talking about?" Lucas finally shouted, his eyes flicking from the weapon to Adrian's face. "What we had, did it mean anything to you?" Adrian's voice broke as he spoke, and I could feel the raw pain radiating from him. Lucas met his gaze firmly. "Of course it did. I love you," he said, his voice steady despite the fear. Adrian's laugh was harsh, bitter. "Sure, you did. You can stop lying now. I found the evidence you collected against us." Lucas froze, eyes wide. "You should have handed it over when you had the chance," Adrian said softly, his voice heavy with hurt. "No one's going to jail because of your mistakes." Lucas swallowed hard. "Adrian, it's nothing. I wasn't going to use it against you." Adrian shook his head. "I collected it because—" "Enough. You're too afraid to own up to it," Adrian snapped. "Do you know how much I loved you? What I would have done for you?" His words were full of heartbreak, and I flinched, wishing I could ease his pain. "Please," Lucas began again, his voice trembling. For a brief moment, Adrian's expression softened, but then it hardened again. He whispered, "I loved you, and you betrayed me." "Adrian, don't, please," I shouted, trying to break free of Marcus' grip. Marcus turned sharply to me. "Stop it. Are you trying to get yourself hurt? Stay here now." I froze, trapped between fear, shock, and the heartbreak radiating from Adrian. "Adrian, you don't want to do this. Trust me, just put the weapon down and listen," Marcus said, his voice calm but firm. Adrian's gaze remained locked on Lucas, who stood silently, his face pale but steady, as if he had already accepted the confrontation. "I've never lied to you about how I feel, but I can't keep watching you hurt anyone else," Lucas whispered, voice breaking slightly. At that, Adrian's hand wavered just a little. Silence stretched between them. "And even now, I can't do it," Adrian admitted quietly. His face was tight with emotion, and to my immense relief, he lowered the weapon. I exhaled the breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Marcus kept a firm hand on my arm, grounding me. Adrian looked exhausted and beaten, but then chaos erupted. The window behind them shattered, and a flurry of gunfire erupted. I screamed as 2 shots struck Lucas, and he crumpled to the floor. Adrian spun, shouting his name, and I watched in shock as he crawled to Lucas, pressing himself protectively over him. I realized I was on the floor with Marcus, half protected under his body. Something sharp grazed my arm, but Marcus quickly pulled me behind a sturdy column for cover. Scotty's POV. After what felt like an eternity, I pushed myself upright, coughing from the smoke and burning fumes. Lakin was gasping nearby, though I couldn't see him clearly. I felt Jessie beside me and grabbed her waist to help her up. She clung to me, coughing violently, and I held her close. "Lakin!" I called, my voice rough. "Fire!" he shouted back. I scanned the room, spotting Marcus and Grady amid the chaos. "We have to get out," Jessie rasped. I fumbled my way through the haze, the heat pressing against me. Strong hands grabbed me, and soon we were being guided out of the building, collapsing onto the ground outside as fresh air hit our lungs. "Lakin," I managed to say once I could breathe. Carson went back for him, Thomas said, holding a coughing Grady in his arms. I looked around. Flames licked nearby buildings, people ran in all directions, and teams worked to contain the fires. Carson appeared carrying Lakin safely. Relief washed over me. Take Lakin to my quarters, Carson instructed Thomas, then disappeared into the chaos. Marcus POV. Adrian's anguished cries for Lucas cut through the chaos. The shooting had stopped, but panic and confusion swirled around us. I ripped the sleeve of my shirt to wrap around River's arm, where a piece of flying glass had grazed him. Adrian! I hissed before running toward him. He had pressed his shirt against one of Lucas' wounds, and I quickly offered mine for the other. Lucas' eyes were open, watching, but his breathing was shallow and uneven. Adrian cradled him, whispering, "Stay with me." "He can't stay here. He needs a doctor," I said urgently. "We need to get him to Carson's quarters," Rivers added, stepping forward cautiously. "That's the fastest way to get medical help." I gestured for him to stay low, then helped guide Adrian and Lucas. I couldn't explain when I'd begun to care so deeply for Lucas. Hours ago, I had decided to ignore him, but his fear had driven me here. Now, seeing him like this, I realized his safety mattered as much as anyone else's. We had to move. Lucas POV. Everything hurt. Every movement, every breath, every heartbeat was a sharp reminder of what had happened. I tried to focus on Adrian's face, which hovered over me, saying something I couldn't make out. I reached up, but pain shot through my side, and I groaned, forcing myself to lie still in the hope it would ease. Tears ran freely from the corners of my eyes, but I couldn't reach them to wipe them away. "It hurts," I whispered, my voice barely audible. He leaned closer, speaking softly, but I couldn't comprehend the words. Another wave of pain racked my body, and I slipped into darkness, grateful for a brief escape from the agony. Chapter 24. Scotty's POV. The atmosphere in Carson's quarters was heavy, a mix of worry and exhaustion. A week and a half had passed since the attack, and we still had no answers. No one had seen the attackers, and after the initial chaos, there were no further disturbances. One thing was clear, it had been an inside job. There was no evidence suggesting otherwise. We had traitors among us. "Hasn't Thomas told you anything, Grady?" Jessie asked, her voice cautious. Grady shrugged. "I hardly see Thomas these days, and I live with the guy," he replied. "He's always holed up somewhere with Carson and the elders." "Yeah, last time I heard from Carson was a few days ago, and all he said in his texts was that they're trying to get to the bottom of it," Lakin added, disappointment clear in his voice. I sighed. "A week and a half, and we're still exactly where we started. Why won't they at least tell us if they've found anything?" "They'll call a pack meeting when they're ready," Lakin said. He looked as miserable as we all felt. "It doesn't make sense. Why attack the pack? 'Cause minimal damage and vanish?" I asked. No one had an answer. Grady shrugged. "There's nothing we can do now. They'll tell us when they're ready. Welcome to pack life, Scotty. Even if you're close to the leaders, you're still out of the loop." A few moments of silence followed before Grady asked, "How's Adrian holding up?" I exhaled slowly. "Not well. He barely eats, barely sleeps." I trailed off. Jessie squeezed my arm, offering comfort. Everyone's eyes were on me, silently asking for more. I can't imagine what he must be going through. If it had been Thomas, Grady's voice faded, leaving the thought unspoken. We all understood. None of us could function if it had been our loved ones in Lucas' place. "I miss talking to him, and Carson's acting tough, but I know he's hurting too," Lakin said, tears filling his eyes. "Lucas saved his life once, you know. In the pack raids, right?" Jessie was telling me the story, I said. Lakin nodded. "Yeah. We were losing, men going down left and right. They outnumbered us, and we weren't prepared. Then Lucas showed up with his team and the Marcana pack. Carson was badly injured, but Lucas found him and took him to safety." The heroic part? He hated Carson at the time, but he put that aside to help him. By the time Lakin finished, tears streamed down his face, refusing to stop despite his efforts. "And now he couldn't finish, and Grady wrapped a comforting arm around him. We all felt sick at what had happened to Lucas. He didn't deserve this. But we had to stay strong. Something told me this attack was only the beginning. Trying to lighten the mood, I said, "Hey Grady, I meant to ask, what's with the ring you and Thomas wear?" Grady glanced at his hand, a small smile breaking through. "It's an engagement ring," he said. Lakin chuckled softly. "Grady has this ridiculous idea that the mating ceremony is a marriage. He refused to go through it until Thomas bought him a ring," Lakin added, and I laughed. "Not true. I would have done it anyway, but it just didn't seem right without a ring," Grady protested, earning another round of laughter. "And this is why I wouldn't want to be mated to a human. They're so hard to please," Rivers added, and we all laughed again. "You know what? We've been so stressed lately. Let's stop talking about our problems for a few hours. Just breathe and do something fun," Rivers suggested. "What do you have in mind?" "I could cook, Jesse could bake, and we could play games, watch a movie, or even dance, anything to take our minds off things," Rivers said with a grin. "Sounds good," Jesse beamed. "I'll run to the store and grab a few things. Maybe stop by the mall for some movies," Rivers added. But just as he reached for the door, Marcus' voice stopped him. "We don't know why the attacks happened. The person responsible could be targeting anyone. It's not safe to leave camp." Rivers rolled his eyes. "Sweetie, we're not exactly safe in camp anyway. I'm not hiding here." Marcus' tone hardened. "Sit down, Rivers. You're not going anywhere." Rivers hesitated, then reluctantly returned to his chair, looking miserable. Grady snickered, earning a glare from Marcus, and fell silent. Marcus' expression softened when Rivers gave him those big, pleading eyes. Finally he sighed. "Fine. You can go out for a few minutes, but I'm coming with you." Rivers grinned and took Marcus' hand, a silent agreement passing between them. It was clear Marcus was dominant, but Rivers had his own way of wrapping him around his finger. I smiled. At least something good had come from the attack. It had brought Marcus and Rivers closer, deepening the bond between them. For now, my concern rested on one brother, Adrian, and whether I could reach him after everything that had happened. Scotty's POV. As predicted, a pack meeting was called that night. Everyone gathered in the courtyard, murmurs filling the air until the Alpha and Beta, along with the council elders, took the stage. Silence fell instantly. Lakin and Grady stood at the rear of the platform, looking as confused as the rest of us. I raised an eyebrow at Lakin. He shrugged. Thomas stepped forward, his gaze sweeping the crowd. "There are traitors among us," he announced, his voice cold and commanding. The crowd murmured in disbelief, glancing at one another nervously. Carson remained silent, his eyes scanning the assembly with precision. "Rest assured, the traitors will be found and held accountable. If you know anything about those responsible, you are expected to come forward. Failure to do so will result in equal consequences," Thomas continued, his tone icy. A few minutes passed. Then Thomas commanded, "Apprehend the suspects." I blinked, surprised. I hadn't even realized there were suspects. Suddenly, a pack guard took hold of Jesse. Before I could react, hands grabbed my arms, pulling me through the crowd. "Hey, what's going on?" I demanded. A scuffle erupted nearby as Marcus and Rivers were escorted away as well. "This can't be happening," I muttered, then froze when I met Marcus' eyes across the yard. He shook his head slightly, silently telling me to stop resisting. I allowed myself to be guided away, my mind spinning with confusion and fear. Adrian's POV. His hand felt small and fragile in mine as I gently traced my fingers over his. No response. I kept hoping he would open his eyes, squeeze my hand, or whisper my name, anything to break the silence, but he remained still. He hadn't moved since the shooting, and I was beginning to wonder if he ever would. The doctor had explained it as a stress-induced coma. Lucas hadn't suffered a head injury. The trauma of the situation had simply caused him to retreat inward. His injuries had been treated, but whether he woke up or not was entirely up to him. Lucas was a fighter, but after how I'd acted, I feared he might give up before I had a chance to make amends for my thoughtless words and actions. Seeing him so frail, all his usual strength and spirit gone, filled me with anger at the traitor who had caused this pain. I stroked his hair, gently running a hand over his forehead. Not even a twitch. I dropped my head onto the bed, exhausted. Most of the time I talked to him anyway. The doctor said he might hear my voice, but today I couldn't summon the words. Tears threatened to fall, and I refused to let them. I had to be strong for him. He needed me to be strong, and I would. I hadn't realized I'd dozed off until strong hands gripped my arms and pulled me upright. "What the?" I muttered groggily. "We need you to come with us," a stern voice said. I turned to see two pack guards looming over me. "What's this about?" I asked, suspicion prickling my spine. "We need you to come with us," one repeated. My patience snapped. "I'm not leaving, Lucas. Either tell me what you need or leave," I said, gripping his hand again. They ignored me, and before I could react, I was lifted from the chair. "I won't," I shouted, twisting and struggling, but more arms grabbed me. I was dragged out of the room, kicking and shouting, my heart pounding with fear and frustration. Scotty's POV. The room they left me in was tiny, furnished only with a small table and 2 chairs. A narrow window let in just a sliver of light, and the concrete walls radiated a cold chill. I sat stiffly, hands resting on the table, facing Thomas. He had been staring at me for minutes, waiting for a reaction. I assumed the silence was meant to unsettle me, but it didn't. I had been trained to never give away secrets, to remain calm under scrutiny, and to always meet a person's gaze. So far, I was doing all 3. "I'm giving you the opportunity to speak. To confess before we proceed," Thomas said, his voice cold and sharp. This was not the warm, approachable man I had known. The Thomas in front of me was calculating, and his eyes held no hint of the friendliness I remembered. I remained silent, my expression deliberately neutral. "Did you really think you wouldn't be questioned about the crime?" he pressed. "It's quite a coincidence that this happened the day your brothers arrived, don't you think?" "Thomas, I was in the building with you when they tried to set it on fire. I had Jesse with me. We could have been seriously hurt. You really think I would risk harming my mate or put myself in danger?" I asked calmly. "I didn't say I thought it was you," he replied evenly. "My brothers." Lucas was shot. He could have died. They wouldn't have done this to him, and Marcus wouldn't have endangered Rivers. "Thomas, you're wasting your time. We didn't do this," I said firmly. Thomas straightened, his eyes narrowing. "Grady could have been killed in that fire. If it turns out you and your brothers were responsible, you'll regret ever coming here." A cold anger surged through me. It was time to stop pretending to play along. I leaned forward, my voice steady but icy. "Let me make this clear. If you keep treating us like criminals, there will be consequences." "Is that a threat?" he asked, his anger barely contained. "Does it sound like anything else?" I replied. Jesse's POV. The elder's questions came rapidly, over and over, and I stayed silent, refusing to give in. "If you side with these criminals over your own pack, your punishment will be greater than theirs," he warned, his eyes bulging as if to intimidate me. "I've said it before, Scotty is innocent, and so are his brothers," I declared, my voice steady. "You must put your pack first and help bring the culprits to justice," he insisted. "I would be honored to help, but you're investigating the wrong people." I shot back, anger flaring in my chest. The elder's eyes darkened. "You are a disgrace to this pack," he said quietly. "I'm a disgrace?" I asked, disbelief sharp in my tone. "I've given everything to this pack, always put it first, and been loyal. And yet you accuse me and my mate of a crime we didn't commit? Maybe it's time I reconsider where my loyalties lie." The elder's thin lips pressed together, his fists tightening. Rivers POV. The elder glared at me as if to make me shrink in fear. I refused to look down. I had been stuck in this cold, small room for an hour before anyone arrived, and now accusations flew like arrows. "I didn't do anything and neither did they," I said for the 10th time. "Those brothers don't deserve your loyalty. You will tell me what you know. Why did they come here? What are they planning?" "They didn't do anything. We were all together. We could have been hurt," I argued. The elder stepped closer, his presence imposing. A minute before Lucas was shot, Adrian had a gun aimed at him. He didn't pull the trigger, but if he had, Marcus would have known. You know what happened and you will tell me. Marcus is innocent. He would never. He slammed his hand on the table, eyes blazing. You will assist your pack or you will face consequences. I stood abruptly, anger replacing fear. They're innocent. I don't know anything, and you're wrong if you think they had anything to do with this. A guard barged in, shoving me back into my seat and folding his arms. Tell me what I need to know, or your fate will be sealed with theirs, the elder warned. My lips trembled, tears threatening, but I managed to whisper, I want Marcus. Marcus POV. I could feel my mate's fear and despair as if it were my own. I struggled to contain my anger as I glared at the two guards who had been questioning me since I was brought here. I've said it before. My brothers and I are not responsible, and neither is Rivers, I spat. The guards sneered, adjusting their stance as if they could intimidate me. I clenched my teeth. We were fine before you and your brothers arrived. Now wolves are hurt and property destroyed. If you don't talk, your mate will face the consequences, one threatened. I could feel my patience snapping. You wouldn't even get the chance. If I wanted you gone, you would be. Now, where is my mate? I slammed the table to the side. The guard stepped back, eyes wide as they took in my fury. Pack guards POV. The tension in the room was nearly unbearable. I wasn't a coward, but the anger radiating from Adrian and Marcus made me uneasy. I had never seen anyone hold their ground like Adrian. The man's presence was commanding, rivaling even our alpha's authority. If Adrian wanted to act, I knew he could. And from the icy tone of his voice, it was clear he would not hesitate to do so. This pack hasn't seen anything like what I will unleash if I am not returned to Lucas' side immediately, he warned, and I shivered, knowing every word was a promise. Thanks for listening to today's BL story. If it made your heart skip a beat, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Only here on BL Stories, where love knows no limits.